The Intergalactic Council had seen it all. For thousands of years, the galaxy had been ruled by advanced civilizations, their empires sprawling across countless star systems. These species, with their long histories and technologies beyond human imagination, had little patience for young, developing races. But Earth was different. In a vast, high-tech chamber, the Council convened for an urgent meeting. Representatives from various star systems, each a species more advanced than humanity, sat in their gleaming chairs. On one side, the Elders, a group of highly respected leaders from the oldest civilizations, spoke in hushed tones. On the other side, the younger, more eager members of the Council whispered, eager to discuss a different topic: Earth. The Elders were not known for being alarmist, but today their faces were grave. The situation they had called for this meeting about was serious. They had studied humanity's progress, and despite their younger colleagues' dismissiveness, they knew that something was brewing on Earth, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity is growing too fast, Elder Lyra said, her voice steady but full of concern. She was an ancient being, her species having witnessed the rise and fall of many galaxies. Their technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. What was once a small, isolated planet now has the ability to influence entire star systems. The room fell silent. The younger members of the Council, most of whom had only recently learned about humanity's rise, exchanged glances. To them, the idea of a young species from a relatively insignificant planet threatening the galactic order seemed absurd. "Do you truly believe that Earth will pose a threat to us?" asked Varn, a representative from the Celian race. His species had mastered interstellar travel and had seen countless lesser races come and go. Their society is chaotic. They fight amongst themselves constantly. How could they possibly challenge us? Elder Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand, Varn. It's not their chaos that makes them dangerous. It's their potential. They're still in their early stages, but if they continue on their current path, they'll surpass us all." The young representatives scoffed. They had seen young races rise to power before, only to fall into dust. They believed humanity, like so many others, would be no different. The idea of such a young species becoming a galactic power was too hard to accept. "You worry too much," said Zolma, a representative from the Elaxi race, a species known for its strength and bravery. Earth's population is still small compared to ours, and their technology is primitive. Even if they develop faster than expected, they will never catch up to the likes of us. The Elders exchanged looks, their faces drawn with years of wisdom. They knew that the younger generations, full of confidence and ambition, often failed to see the big picture. "It's not about technology alone," Elder Vex said softly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "It's about their spirit. They are driven. Human history is one of survival, of overcoming the odds. Every time they are pushed to the brink, they rise. It is that willpower that makes them so dangerous." The room was quiet. No one in the galaxy had ever encountered a species quite like humans. Where others gave up, humans fought. Where others hesitated, humans took risks. It was the combination of their sheer will, endless curiosity, and the rapid pace at which they were advancing that had the Elders so concerned. "We must take action now," Elder Lyra continued, her tone firm. "The sooner we address the threat of humanity, the better. If we wait too long, it may be too late." Varn laughed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You are all overreacting. We have the power to crush them if they ever pose a real threat. Earth is a tiny speck in the universe. We'll be able to control them before they even realize what's happening." Elder Vex stood, his ancient gaze fixed on Varn. "It is exactly that kind of arrogance that leads to downfall," he said, his voice heavy. "The most dangerous species are often those that are underestimated. If we ignore humanity, we do so at our own peril." The younger members of the Council rolled their eyes, dismissing the Elders' warnings as nothing more than the ramblings of old beings who had lived too long. They couldn't see it. How could they? The galaxy had always been ruled by the strongest, the most advanced. Surely, Earth was just another fleeting civilization that would burn bright for a moment, and then disappear like so many before it. But the elders knew better. They had seen countless empires rise, only to be crushed under their own arrogance. And they had seen species like humanity, the ones who fought, the ones who persevered, become the unexpected giants of the galaxy. As the meeting came to a close, the elders exchanged a final knowing glance. They had done their part. They had warned the council. They had spoken the truth. Now, it was only a matter of time before the rest of the galaxy saw the danger that humanity posed. And when that time came, it would be too late. Earth had changed. The small blue planet that once seemed insignificant in the vastness of the galaxy was no longer the same. What had once been a species barely able to reach the stars was now breaking the barriers that had limited them for centuries. Human hands built ships that could travel faster than light, and their cities sprawled across the surface of the Moon, Mars, and beyond. The galaxy, once an open playground for ancient civilizations, now had to make room for a new player. By the time the Galactic Council finally began to take notice of humanity's advancements, it was already too late. Earth had grown into a power that could no longer be ignored. In the span of just a few decades, humans had constructed massive ships capable of interstellar travel. They developed new forms of energy, harnessing the power of the stars themselves. And yet, despite all this progress, humans remained driven by something deeper than technology. It was their boundless curiosity, their relentless drive, and their refusal to be held back by their past that pushed them forward. They had no fear of the unknown. They faced challenges head-on, as if the universe itself was something to conquer rather than fear. It wasn't just technology that made humanity different, it was their spirit. Captain Ilara Hines, one of the leaders of the Terran exploration fleet, gazed out at the stars from the command deck of the Odyssey. The ship was a marvel, equipped with engines that could reach the farthest corners of space in a matter of days. The mission ahead would take them beyond known space, to a system that no human had ever visited. It was an adventure, but it was also a challenge. The galaxy was vast, and every new discovery brought with it new dangers. But for humans, danger was merely another obstacle to overcome. "Captain, we've reached the edge of the Vega system," her first officer, Commander Jack Lai, said, breaking her thoughts. "The team is ready to begin the survey of the outer planets." Ilara nodded, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. "Prepare the landing teams. We're going to make history today." In the year since humanity had first launched into the stars, they had already mapped dozens of star systems. And now, with each new step, they gained confidence. Earth was no longer just a tiny, isolated planet. It had become a growing empire in its own right, its influence stretching into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Colonies were springing up on Mars, Titan, and even distant moons in other star systems. And all the while, Earth was quietly, steadily gaining power. Back on Earth, in the bustling capital city of New London, the world's leaders sat in the Great Hall, discussing the next steps in humanity's expansion. President Sarah Calloway, a woman known for her calm demeanor and sharp mind, addressed the assembly of diplomats and military officers gathered before her. "We've done well," she said, her voice firm. "But this is just the beginning. Our next goal is clear. We must establish a permanent presence on other worlds. We need to show the galaxy that humanity is not just a passing phase, but a lasting force. We must be a beacon of hope and strength, a symbol of what can be accomplished when a species refuses to be limited by its beginnings." The room erupted into applause, but President Calloway's mind was already on the future. She knew that there were dangers ahead, and that not every species in the galaxy would view humanity's rise with favor. The Council had already shown their concern, but their warnings had been dismissed as paranoia. Still, she couldn't ignore the possibility that other, more established powers might see humanity as a threat. At the same time, humans were not foolish. They had learned the value of diplomacy. They had learned to make allies, to forge partnerships with other species. Humanity was building bridges, not walls, in their drive to expand. But they were also preparing for conflict, just in case. Far beyond the council halls of Earth, humanity's presence was already being felt. On a distant world in the Rigel system, the Calther, a species known for their advanced technology and long history, were watching. The Calther had ruled over their own domain for centuries, and their power had only grown with time. They had seen many species come and go, but none had caught their attention quite like humanity. For months, Calther scouts had been monitoring human activity in their star system. They had seen the signs of humanity's rapid progress and growing influence, and they didn't like what they saw. The Calther were a race that valued control and order above all else, and the idea of a young, unpredictable species challenging their position in the galaxy was unacceptable. "I don't care how fast they progress," said Thurl, the Calther High Commander, as he watched the data on his ship's monitors. "We cannot allow Earth to become a threat. It's only a matter of time before their ships reach our borders." His second-in-command, Vela, nodded. "They're not like the other species. Humans adapt quickly. They're unpredictable. We need to act before they become too powerful." The Calther were already making plans to deal with the humans, though they hadn't yet decided how to approach the situation. Some suggested diplomacy, others argued for a more forceful solution. But one thing was clear: humanity's rise could not be ignored. The Calther were not the only ones watching Earth. In the shadows of the galaxy, other powerful species began to take note, wondering what this new force would mean for the balance of power. Back on Earth, Elara Hines and her crew on the Odyssey had just completed their first survey of a distant planet in the Vega system. As they prepared to leave, Elara stood at the observation window, staring out at the dark expanse of space. It was vast, empty, and full of possibilities. Humanity had only just begun their journey. And in that silence, Elara knew one thing for sure: they would rise. The galaxy would soon know the power of Earth, and there was no turning back. The Odyssey drifted silently through the vastness of space, her engines purring softly as she made her way toward the edge of the Vega system. Captain Elara Hines stood at the helm, her gaze focused on the stars ahead. The mission was clear: survey and document any potentially habitable planets. But Elara knew that this was more than just a routine mission. Humanity was charting new territory, and every discovery could bring them closer to understanding their place in the universe. As the ship neared the first planet in the system, Commander Jack Lai approached Elara on the bridge. "Captain, we've picked up unusual signals. They don't match any known patterns from the Vega system." Elara raised an eyebrow. "What kind of signals?" "Hard to say," Lai replied, his eyes scanning the readings. "It seems like a form of communication, but it's unlike anything we've encountered before." Elara turned to the crew, giving the order: "Track those signals. Let's see where they lead us." The Odyssey adjusted its course, following the strange transmissions. As the ship drew closer to the source, the signals grew stronger, more defined. It wasn't long before they came upon an enormous space station, floating in the cold expanse between two planets. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built, a massive structure of alien design, its surface gleaming in the distant light of the system's sun. "We found it," Elara said, her voice full of awe. "But who built it?" Before anyone could answer, the communications officer spoke up. "Captain, I'm receiving a direct transmission. It's from the station." Elara's pulse quickened. This was it. First contact. Humanity's first real encounter with another intelligent species. She straightened her posture, making sure her voice was steady. "Put it through." The image of an alien being appeared on the screen. Its form was humanoid, but it was clear that this species was vastly different from anything humanity had encountered before. Its skin was a dark, metallic blue, and its eyes glowed with an intense, eerie light. The alien's voice was calm, but it carried a sense of authority. "We are the Xatheri," it said, speaking in perfect English, though there was an underlying accent that Elara couldn't quite place. We have been watching your species for some time, humans. You have advanced quickly, far more quickly than we anticipated. Ilara's heart raced, but she kept her composure. We didn't mean to surprise you. We're explorers. We come in peace. The Exathuri's glowing eyes seemed to narrow as it studied her. Peace, you say? We've seen your kind before. You are young, full of ambition, but you do not understand the consequences of your actions. You have not learned the ways of the galaxy. You are like a child who has been given a powerful weapon, without understanding how to use it. Ilara didn't flinch. We understand that we have much to learn. But we are not like other species. We're driven to explore, to grow. We may be new to the galaxy, but we're not without wisdom. The Exathuri stared at her, considering her words. Wisdom? You speak as though you have it already. Let me warn you, human. There are dangers out there, dangers that you cannot even begin to comprehend. There are empires that will not tolerate your kind, not when you become a threat. Your species may be clever, but you have no idea what you're truly up against. Ilara's eyes narrowed, but she refused to be intimidated. We don't seek to threaten anyone. We simply want to explore, to learn, and to build a future for ourselves among the stars. The Exathuri's eyes flashed with something like amusement. You are naive. But I will give you this chance, human. You will either learn quickly, or you will fall. The galaxy does not have the patience for those who do not understand their place. Before Ilara could respond, the transmission ended, the image of the alien vanishing from the screen. Captain, what do we do? Lai asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The entire crew had been watching in silence, the tension palpable. This was a moment none of them had ever imagined. First contact was supposed to be a moment of unity, of hope. But this felt more like a warning. Ilara took a deep breath, her mind racing. The Exathuri had been clear. Humanity was not welcome here. But that wasn't going to stop her or her crew. They were explorers. They had always been willing to face the unknown, no matter how dangerous it might seem. We press on, she said firmly, her voice steady. We're not going to let a warning stop us. If we're to thrive in this galaxy, we need to prove we can handle whatever comes our way. The crew nodded in agreement, their fear replaced by determination. The Exathuri had made their warning clear, but Ilara knew humanity's greatest strength, their resilience. They would rise to meet the challenges ahead, as they always had. As the Odyssey continued its mission, humanity's first real step into the wider galaxy was marked not by fear, but by the unwavering resolve to go forward. The warning from the Exathuri echoed in Ilara's mind, but it only fueled her determination. Humanity's path would not be dictated by others. The galaxy was vast, and it was time for humanity to find its place within it, on their own terms. The events that followed the first encounter with the Exathuri left humanity shaken but determined. Despite the threat of the unknown, humanity pressed on with their expansion. The message from the Exathuri, the warning of the dangers lurking in the galaxy, was not one to ignore, but neither was it one that could stop the Terran drive to explore and conquer. Ilara Hines, now a symbol of humanity's resilience, stood at the helm of the Odyssey once more, guiding her crew through the vast unknown. But not everyone shared their optimism. The Galactic Council, the powerful governing body of the known universe, had watched humanity's rise with growing unease. Though the Council had initially dismissed the warnings of the Elders, there were now too many signs that humanity was more than just a passing anomaly. Earth's rapid growth, its relentless technological progress, and its refusal to heed the warnings from other species had made the Council nervous. The Calthur, one of the most powerful and ancient races in the galaxy, had already made their move. They had sent a message to the Council, demanding action against humanity. The Calthur were a warlike species, proud and ancient, and they feared the rise of another power that might rival their own. They had not forgotten the warning of the Exathuri, and they had no intention of allowing humanity to continue unchecked. "We must act now," Thurol, the Calthir High Commander, declared during a meeting of the Council. "We cannot allow Earth's influence to spread any further. It is an uncontrolled force, a danger to our way of life." The other members of the Council, each with their own interests and priorities, hesitated. Some wanted to deal with humanity diplomatically, while others were eager to crush the Terran threat before it became too powerful. But Thurol's words had struck a chord. The Calthir had been a dominant force for centuries, and the idea of a new species challenging their place in the galaxy was too much to ignore. "We must unite," Thurol continued, his voice heavy with the weight of history. "Humanity is unpredictable, and their growth is too fast to be contained. We must show them that the galaxy does not tolerate such rapid expansion. The Council will move against Earth." The decision was made quickly. The galaxy's most powerful forces, led by the Calthir, began preparations for war. They would attack Earth and force humanity to bow to their will. It would be a swift, decisive strike, a reminder to all that the galaxy's power was still in the hands of the established empires. Back on Earth, President Sarah Calloway was briefed on the growing tensions. She had known that humanity's rise would not go unnoticed, but she had not expected it to lead to war so soon. Earth had made allies, but it was clear that the galaxy was not ready to accept a new power so easily. "The Council is assembling a fleet," her chief of staff said, his face grave. "They've gathered forces from the Calthir and other factions. They're preparing to strike." Calloway stood still for a moment, processing the information. "We knew this day might come," she said finally. "It's time for humanity to stand its ground." The Terran military, already a formidable force, began mobilizing. Ships that had once been used for exploration now turned into war machines, prepared to defend Earth at all costs. Humanity's fleet was still young, but it was built on a foundation of ingenuity and determination. Each ship, each crew member, knew the stakes. If Earth fell, all the progress humanity had made would be wiped out in an instant. As the Calthir fleet approached Earth, the situation became even more dire. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the two forces ready for battle. The Terran fleet, though smaller in number, had one key advantage. They knew their home. Earth's defense systems, built over years of preparation, were among the most advanced in the galaxy. The Calthir might have strength, but the humans had something they couldn't easily match: the will to protect everything they had built. Ilara Hines, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of the Odyssey once more. She had always been a symbol of humanity's courage, but now she was the leader of a fleet that would determine Earth's future. "Admiral," Commander Lai said, his voice steady but filled with concern, "the Calthir fleet is within range. Their ships are massive. Their firepower is unmatched." Ilara nodded, her gaze unwavering. "We're not backing down. We've trained for this moment, and now we'll show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." The Odyssey's weapons systems powered up, its crew moving with practiced precision. The vast Calthir fleet loomed ahead, a massive array of warships that could crush anything in their path. But humanity was not like the other species the Calthir had faced. Earth had faced its own battles, wars, struggles, and challenges, and had always come out stronger. The first shots were fired with a deafening roar, and the battle for Earth began. The sky above the planet turned to fire as the two fleets clashed. Lasers streaked through space, and explosions lit up the dark expanse. Ships were shattered, torn apart by the sheer force of the conflict. Despite the odds, the Terran fleet held its ground. Humanity's strategy was one of adaptability and quick thinking, something that had served them well on Earth's battlefields. As the Calthir forces advanced, the Terrans countered with surprising effectiveness, using their knowledge of Earth's terrain and their advanced technology to strike back. "We can do this," Ilara said, her voice calm amid the chaos. For Earth. As the battle raged on, the galaxy watched. The outcome of this conflict would decide the fate of humanity. The Calthir, powerful and ancient, were not easily defeated, But humanity had something the Calther could not understand: a drive to survive, to protect their home, and to carve out a place for themselves in the universe. The war had begun, and there would be no turning back. But Elara Hines and her crew knew one thing for certain: humanity would not go down without a fight. The battle raged on in the skies above Earth, a clash of civilizations unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Calther fleet, massive and imposing, seemed unstoppable as it advanced toward the heart of humanity's defenses. Their ships were built for destruction, their weapons capable of decimating entire cities with a single shot. But humanity was fighting with everything they had, and they weren't about to let their world fall without a fight. Admiral Elara Hines stood at the center of the Odyssey's command deck, her hand steady as she issued orders. The ship rocked as enemy fire struck its shields, but the crew remained focused. Elara's eyes never left the battlefield, even as explosions lit up the space around them. Humanity's ships were smaller, but they were fast and nimble, able to dodge the Calther's heavy artillery. "Admiral," Commander Jack Lai said, his voice tense, "we've lost contact with the Eastern Fleet. It's too much for them. We need reinforcements." Elara's heart sank as she heard the news. The Calther were overwhelming humanity's forces, but she knew they couldn't afford to retreat. "We hold our ground," she said, her voice firm. "We've trained for this. We've faced worse." Her crew was determined. They knew what was at stake: Earth, their homes, and the future of humanity. The Calther might have the power, but the humans had something else: their ingenuity and determination. The battle had already lasted hours, but to Elara it felt like days. The Odyssey's shields flickered as another blast hit, but the ship held strong. She turned to her communication officer. "Send a message to every Terran fleet. We cannot let them break through. We fight as one." "Yes, Admiral," the officer replied, quickly transmitting her orders. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the situation was no less dire. The Calther had launched waves of attack ships, raining destruction down upon major cities. The Terran military, spread thin, was doing its best to defend against the onslaught. Earth's defense systems were formidable, but they weren't built to withstand such a massive invasion. President Sarah Calloway sat in her command center, watching the holographic map of Earth's defense grid. Her face was set in a determined frown, her mind calculating the next move. "We need to turn this around," she said, her voice resolute. "We can't let them breach our final defenses." A voice came from her chief of staff. "Madam President, the Calther have breached our eastern defense perimeter. They're moving toward New London." Calloway's eyes narrowed. New London, the capital, was the heart of Earth's government and military operations. If the Calther reached it, humanity's chances of survival would drop to almost nothing. "Alert all ground forces. We need every soldier in position to defend the capital. We cannot lose New London." Back in space, Elara's voice rang out over the Odyssey's intercom, her calm leadership a beacon of hope for her crew. "Prepare for counterattack. We're not giving up. Not now. We're going to show the Calther that humanity won't fall without a fight." The Terran fleet, battered but unbroken, regrouped under her command. They knew their chances were slim, but they also knew that if they failed here, humanity's future would be uncertain. This was their chance to prove they had a place in the galaxy. The Calther fleet, sensing victory, pushed harder, sending wave after wave of fighters toward Earth's defenses. But just as the Calther prepared for the final strike, something unexpected happened. The Odyssey, along with several other Terran ships, broke formation and executed a daring maneuver. They dove straight toward the heart of the Calther fleet, evading fire as they moved. "Admiral, what are we doing?" Lai asked, his voice full of disbelief. "We're giving them a surprise they won't forget," Elara replied with a grim smile. "We know their tactics. It's time to use their own strategy against them." The Terran ships plunged into the heart of the Calther fleet, using their speed and maneuverability to weave through the enemy lines. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The Calther ships, not built for such close-quarters combat, struggled to keep up with the fast-moving Terran ships. Ilara's tactical brilliance became clear as the Odyssey and its fleet engaged the Calther in a series of hit-and-run strikes. The Calther, used to overwhelming force, were caught off guard by the humans' agility. The Terrans made their move, striking vital parts of the Calther ships, causing chaos within their fleet. "We've got them on the ropes," Lai shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "They're retreating." But Ilara's expression was still serious. The Calther were powerful, and their retreat might just be a tactical maneuver. They couldn't let their guard down yet. "Stay focused," she ordered. "We don't stop until we've sent them a message they'll never forget." Back on Earth, the situation was just as tense. Ground forces fought desperately to hold off the Calther advance, but they were being pushed to their limits. As the Calther reached New London, the defense lines began to falter. The fate of the city, and the planet, was hanging by a thread. Then, in a surprising twist, a new force arrived. Terran reinforcements, ships and soldiers who had been positioned at the outer reaches of Earth's defense zones, surged forward, bolstered by the success of the Terran fleet's counteroffensive in space. With this new strength, the tide of battle began to shift. The Calther, stunned by the unexpected resistance, found themselves outnumbered and outmaneuvered. The humans had fought with everything they had, and now it was showing. The Calther, realizing that their victory was no longer certain, began to pull back. Slowly at first, then faster as more Terran reinforcements arrived. It wasn't a complete retreat, but it was enough. Humanity had proven itself. Ilara watched as the Calther fleet, battered and broken, withdrew from the battlefield. A small but hard-earned victory, but one that sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. "We did it," Commander Lai said, his voice full of disbelief. "We did," Ilara replied, her gaze focused on the retreating Calther ships. But this war is far from over. The war had taken its toll on Earth. The Calther, though they had retreated, had caused great damage. Entire cities lay in ruins, their once bustling streets now silent under the weight of the conflict. The Terran fleet had proven itself, but the cost of victory had been high. Humanity had fought bravely, but there was still much to rebuild. The question now was, what would the future look like after the war? Admiral Ilara Hines stood at the bridge of the Odyssey, looking out at the stars. The battle was over, but the scars of the conflict were still fresh. Her crew, though tired and battered, had performed admirably, but there was no time for rest. The galaxy, it seemed, was watching. Earth had proven its strength, but it had also made enemies. "We've won this battle, but we haven't won the war," Commander Jack Lai said, standing beside Ilara. "The Calther will regroup, and there are others out there who will see us as a threat." Ilara nodded, her eyes never leaving the view of space. "I know, but for now, we've bought Earth some time. Time to prepare, time to heal." Her words were true, but the peace that followed the battle was fragile. The Galactic Council, though it had not directly engaged in the conflict, now found itself in a difficult position. The Calther had suffered a defeat, but they were still a powerful force. And they were not the only ones who had their eyes on Earth. Back on Earth, President Sarah Calloway had her own concerns. The war had left the planet divided. The public was exhausted, and many wondered whether the price of victory had been too high. Yet there were still those who believed that humanity's place in the galaxy was worth fighting for. Calloway sat in her office, reviewing reports from the military and the council. She had to make decisions that would shape Earth's future. "Madam President," her chief of staff said, interrupting her thoughts, "we've received a message from the Galactic Council." Calloway's heart sank. She knew what this could mean. The Council had been watching humanity's rise for some time. and now they would have to respond. The Calthur's failure would have repercussions, and Earth was right in the center of it. "Put it through," Calloway said, her voice steady despite the tension. The screen flickered to life, revealing the image of High Counselor Varka, an alien representative of the Council. His expression was serious, his voice cold. "President Calloway," Varka said, "the Calthur have filed an official grievance with the Council regarding the recent conflict. They demand that Earth be held accountable for its actions." Calloway took a deep breath. The Calthur were notorious for their pride, and they would not take the defeat lightly. "What do they want?" "They want a formal apology," Varka replied, "and they insist that Earth be placed under the Council's jurisdiction for the foreseeable future." Calloway's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse?" Varka's gaze remained steady. "Then the Calthur will not be the only ones opposed to your rise. Other empires will join them. The consequences could be severe." Calloway's mind raced. Earth had won the battle, but now they were being forced into a corner. To submit to the Galactic Council would mean losing Earth's sovereignty, its independence, but to refuse could ignite another war. The stakes had never been higher. "I will discuss this with my advisors," Calloway said, her voice firm. "But Earth will not be bullied. We will find another way." The transmission ended, leaving Calloway to face the difficult choices ahead. There were factions within Earth's government that urged submission, seeing the Council's power as an undeniable force. But there were others who wanted to resist, to maintain Earth's independence no matter the cost. As president, it was her duty to lead Earth through this uncertainty. Back in space, Ilara had been following the developments closely. The Odyssey and the rest of the fleet were still in orbit above Earth, waiting for orders. The victory had given humanity a moment of respite, but it was clear that the galaxy would not let them rest for long. The Calthur were only the beginning. Other empires would follow, and they would not be so easily defeated. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next," Ilara said, pacing the bridge. "We've proven we can fight, but we need to be smarter now. We need allies." Commander Lai looked up at her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You're right. The Calthur might have underestimated us, but there are others who won't make the same mistake." Ilara's mind began to race. If humanity was to survive in this galaxy, they would need more than just military strength. They would need diplomacy, strategy, and the ability to form alliances with those who might be sympathetic to their cause. "We'll start making contact with the more neutral factions," Ilara said. "The Exathari warned us that the galaxy is full of dangers. We need to find out where we stand before we make any more moves." Lai nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars outside. "It's going to be a long road, isn't it?" Ilara smiled, though there was no joy in it. "A long road, but we've come this far. And we're not going to back down now." On Earth, President Calloway called a meeting with her closest advisors. The decision she made today would determine Earth's future for generations to come. The Calthur were powerful, but Earth had something they lacked: the unity and resolve to protect their home. "This isn't just about Earth," Calloway said, looking around the room. "This is about humanity's future in the galaxy. We need to show the Council that we won't be pushed around, but we also need to be smart. We can't afford another war." The room was quiet, each person deep in thought. The weight of the decision was clear, and none of them had an easy answer. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was certain: humanity was not going to give up without a fight. In the aftermath of the Calthur's retreat, Earth stood at a crossroads. The battle for survival had been won, but the cost had been high. Cities were in ruins, the scars of war marked the land, and the people were exhausted. Yet despite the destruction, there was a feeling of resolve. Humanity had fought and survived, but the question now was, what would come next? The future was uncertain, and the galaxy watched, waiting to see how Earth would respond. Admiral Ilara Hines stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, looking out at the stars. The Terran fleet, battered but unbroken, had returned to Earth's orbit, ready for whatever would come next. The fight was far from over. The Calther had been pushed back, but they weren't the only power in the galaxy. Ilara knew that humanity's victory, though hard-earned, was only the beginning. "We've proven we can fight," Commander Jack Lai said, his voice steady as he approached Ilara. "But now we need to show the galaxy we can build something lasting." Ilara nodded, her eyes focused on the distant stars. "We need allies. The Calther are just the first to oppose us. There are others out there, some even more powerful. But we've learned something important. We can survive, and we'll find a way to thrive." The threat of the Calther might have passed, but the challenges ahead were immense. Ilara knew that humanity's place in the galaxy was far from secure. The Galactic Council, though not directly involved in the battle, was still a powerful entity, and Earth's defiance would not go unnoticed. The Council's message to President Sarah Calloway had been clear. Earth could not be allowed to remain independent. Back on Earth, President Calloway was grappling with the weight of the decision she would have to make. The Galactic Council had demanded that Earth submit to its authority, but Calloway knew that yielding to their demands would mean the end of Earth's sovereignty. She sat in the quiet of her office, the holographic map of the galaxy flickering before her. The Calther had been a formidable enemy, but there were others just as dangerous. Others who would not hesitate to challenge Earth's place in the galaxy. "We cannot give in," Calloway said to her closest advisors. "Earth has come too far to bow down to the Council, but we also know we cannot fight every power in the galaxy alone." Her Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ronald Hayes, spoke up. "Madam President, there are other factions that might sympathize with us. The Xathari, for example. They warned us about the Calther, and we may still have a chance to build some kind of alliance with them." Calloway nodded thoughtfully. The Xathari, though enigmatic and distant, had been among the first to warn humanity about the dangers lurking in the galaxy. They were an ancient species, wise beyond measure, and their knowledge of the galaxy was unparalleled. If Earth could find a way to gain their trust, it could shift the balance in humanity's favor. "We'll reach out to them," Calloway said, "but we must proceed cautiously. The Council is already watching us closely. If we act too boldly, we may provoke a reaction we're not prepared for." Ilara, too, was aware of the delicate balance they now had to maintain. The Odyssey was docked in Earth's orbit, but Ilara's mind was already elsewhere. The war might have been won, but the true fight for Earth's future had only just begun. She gathered her senior officers, her trusted crew, to discuss the next steps. "We need to explore every option," Ilara said, addressing her crew. "We've survived one war. But if we're going to make our mark in this galaxy, we'll need to build bridges, not just walls. We can't afford to be enemies with everyone." Commander Lai stepped forward. "We've already made some tentative contacts with other races, smaller factions that may be willing to align with Earth. If we can find enough support, we might be able to resist the Council's demands without resorting to violence." Ilara nodded. "Exactly. But we must be careful. Any misstep could cost us everything. The galaxy doesn't forgive easily." As the days passed, Earth's government and the Odyssey's fleet worked tirelessly to make connections with other galactic powers. Some were hostile, unwilling to entertain any notion of an independent Earth. Others were neutral, cautious but intrigued by humanity's resilience. And then there were a few, like the Xathari, who offered their help, though their motives remained unclear. One such meeting took place on a neutral moon, where Earth's representatives met with an emissary from the Xathari. The Xathari, tall and imposing, stood in stark contrast to the humans, their dark eyes glowing with a quiet wisdom. The air between the two groups was tense, but also filled with the possibility of something greater. "We have seen what Earth is capable of," the Xathari emissary, known as Vashka, said, "and we are intrigued. You have fought the Calther, and you have survived. That is not something easily done. But know this, the galaxy is not kind to those who disrupt the balance." President Calloway stood firm, her gaze unwavering. "We do not seek to disrupt the balance. We seek to protect our home. We seek the freedom to choose our own path, and we are willing to fight for it." Vashka regarded her carefully, his expression unreadable. "You are not the only ones who fight for survival, but we see potential in humanity. Perhaps in time, we may offer more than just a warning." The Xathari were enigmatic, but their words held weight. Earth had made an ally, though it was unclear what the future would hold. But this meeting marked a turning point, a glimmer of hope that Earth was not alone in its struggle. Back aboard the Odyssey, Ilara and her crew received the news with cautious optimism. Humanity had made its first diplomatic move, and though it was small, it was a step forward. "This is just the beginning," Ilara said, looking out at the stars once more. "The road ahead will be difficult, but we've shown the galaxy that we will fight for our future, and we will find a way to make our place in it." The galaxy, once vast and unknown, was now something humanity was beginning to understand. And though the road ahead was filled with uncertainty, one thing was clear: humanity would never back down. They had survived the war, and now they would fight for the future that they deserved.